This week on the Canadian Tech Podcast, we have the earnings for 5 different tech companies. The end of Flash is nigh. Google's trying to go around the Canadian Supreme Court. And should we get a Hyperloop instead of high-speed rail? That's all next and more on the Canadian Tech Podcast.
The Canadian Tech Podcast is sponsored by Olio Digital Labs. Olio are the planners, designers, and developers of the apps used by some of Canada's biggest brands. Find out what Olio can do for you at oliodigitallabs.com. And we're also sponsored by CodeShip, continuous integration and delivery software that lets you ship your apps with confidence. Both CodeShip Basic and CodeShip Pro come with a free plan that grants 100 builds per month, unlimited projects, and unlimited users. Visit codeship.com today to find out which CodeShip product is right for you.
Welcome to the Canadian Tech Podcast, episode 126 for Sunday, July the 30th, 2017, sponsored by Olio Digital Labs and CodeShip. My name is Stuart Clark.
And my name is Derek Silva.
Well, Derek, it's hard to believe. July has come and gone. We're almost in August.
It's nice and hot lately, though.
You know what? And part of it wasn't all hot and humid, so that wasn't too bad.
No.
I didn't mind that. So it was actually some pleasant weather. We just finished Pride Week here in London with the parade, and everyone was there. So that's pretty good. So no, they had a good weather for that. So not too bad. But yeah, coming into August, and I've noticed the back to school sales are in full swing.
I did see that today as well.
And you know what? I was at the dollar store today picking up something for my wife, and they even have the Halloween stuff. So we're into August. Sorry.
I know. It's not your fault. It's
I know.
It's merchandising, and
it's merchandising.
It's a terrible industry.
Exactly. So we have another really special guest tonight. So Derek, why don't you go ahead and introduce her?
We do. Her name is Julie Giberson. Julie is a research assistant at the Hospitality and Tourism Research Institute at Ryerson University. She's also a fourth-year Bachelor of Commerce student. She has co-authored 3 papers on virtual reality, one of which was the recipient of the Best Paper Award at the 2017 Tourism and Sports Management Division at the Administrative Sciences Association of Canada Conference. And one was a finalist for Best Paper Award at the 2017 Travel and Tourism Research Association Conference. She has also conducted her own research on Generation Y and VR, which she presented at the 3rd Global Hospitality and Tourism Conference in Hong Kong. Julie, that's a heck of a resume, and welcome to the show.
That's quite a mouthful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
That's great.
Well, exactly. Well, yeah, no, like you've done quite a bit. And I know when I was first reading some of the bio, and I have to confess, I hadn't heard of the Hospitality and Tourism Research Institute at Ryerson, but I did some background there, and it's quite interesting. And also particularly, one of your specialties is talking about virtual reality. And at first I'm thinking virtual reality and hospitality, and I can see it for tourism, but the hospitality space, and I had to kind of think about it a minute. So I had a look through some of your work and some of your papers, and first of all, we have to say you're probably smarter than both Derek and I, based on what we definitely see one of the papers in that.
And she's modest too.
And she's modest. So tell us a bit about VR in both the hospitality and tourism space. Give us some kind of background for someone, let's say in our audience, who kind of was the same way I was going, what? Right. I think of VR for games and that. How does it work? How does it work in these two sectors?
And I mean, it's really common to think of virtual reality and gaming, just because that's been such a huge, section of what VR has been in the last few years. I mean, it definitely has taken all of these, all of these different head-mounted displays and applications of VR have been really enhanced through gaming. So a lot of people, when they think of virtual reality, instantly think of gaming. But what I specifically study, and what I've actually got the opportunity to study the last little while, has been virtual reality and its implications within travel and tourism specifically. So some of the studies that I've done have really tried to understand how different travel companies and, destination marketing organizations and everything, kind of encompassing that tourism space are actually taking advantage of the technology. And the thing with travel is it's such an intangible thing. There's a lot of risk associated with buying travel. So virtual reality is this really gives people, an immersive experience that can help marketers of travel really communicate destination characteristics and, try to convince people to come travel to their destination. So a lot of places have already started to use it, and more, whether it's an cruise line or even different airlines, and, even under the hospitality tourism space, there's things like theme parks and, travel agencies. All of these places are starting to adapt the technology in varying ways. So it's kind of blowing up within tourism and travel.
Are you finding that obviously the younger generation is more picking this up, or is this something that some of these companies are offering and all age ranges are starting to embrace it?
Well, it's really interesting because virtual reality has been kind of, I guess, within the travel space, within academia and within industry, has been talked about as, something that could be a little bit scary because it is so immersive that it could potentially, reduce people's interest in going to a destination because it could travel. That's kind of like one of the big things that people seem to talk about. But applications are being developed for both kind of generations. I mean, all generations. So places like Kontiki and G Adventures, which are very much youth-oriented travel companies, they've put head-mounted displays, Samsung Gear VR out in the streets to talk to millennials and to showcase their latest tours. And that's very much, millennial-based. But you also have companies Cook that are kind of catering to maybe a different market, who are having their travel agents equipped with virtual reality technology and offering people coming into store, couples, whoever it might be, the opportunity to kind of look through some of the videos and experience some different trip opportunities and help them select where they want to go next. So it's really being explored for all markets.
Okay, Derek, do you have a question?
Yeah, so it looks like the most recent paper you worked on was virtual reality and destination marketing. Do I have that right? Julie?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry. Was the last paper you worked on, was it the one here, virtual reality and destination marketing?
Yes, that would be the most recent for sure.
Right. So I guess, like, what were the actual findings in? Like, obviously you found out that it's being used, and certainly I was going to play devil's advocate a little bit and be like, oh man, not for me, but I'm sure there are people who are like, oh, I've seen it in VR, good enough.
I don't need to see it anymore.
Yeah, right. I don't need to go anymore. Like, like a famous hot spring in Iceland or something like that. But me personally, having been to other countries, it would make me actually want to go, right?
Right.
Did any of this did this address anything around like anxiety of visiting another country for some people or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I've done my own studies. I mean, the study that we conducted on VR and destination marketing was more of a quantitative study. But the studies that which I can speak to a little bit, but what you're kind of triggering in me is this idea of, people want to use this kind of technology to go to places that, they aspire to go to in real life, or do they want to go to places that, they can't because of financial resources or safety, like you had mentioned, or potentially there's all kinds of things that, would make somebody maybe not want to go to a place.
Right.
What I've been finding in some of my qual type research and in talking to people about their motivations for using VR for travel purposes is it really does vary. For the most part, millennials specifically seem to be more interested in going to places that they aspire to go to really get that preview experience.
Right.
I've heard about Paris. I've been thinking about it. I would love to go see what it looks like through VR just to kind of heighten that actual interest in visiting.
Right.
Fears or limitations will kind of, want to go climb a mountain in Nepal because they would never do that in real life. But that's kind of like it's been a smaller percentage of people.
Okay, well, that's interesting. That was certainly one of my worries, was that VR would get so good that people wouldn't want to go anymore. But it sounds like you're mostly finding that's not the case.
I mean, travel is still. I mean, for most of the people that we've spoken to, travel is still something that you want to go physically experience. It's, you want to taste the food and see the culture. And right. I think to an extent, I mean, VR just can't do that. So, it's what I found enhancing people's interest in going. What I love is seeing some of the older generations. I've looked at studies where people have taken these head-mounted displays into retirement homes, and, VR and travel accessibility is a whole nother topic.
Right.
But taking these head-mounted displays into retirement homes and having these, elderly people that may not have the physical ability to travel to go to these places, and you just see them and there's videos and they're like, this is amazing. Like, I love that I'm able to see this. That for me is so heartwarming. I love that. But for the most part, I think this generation is more interested in going to places that they would actually aspire to go to.
I think, as you say, it gives the ability for people who can't, for various reasons, physical, financial, or whatever. Yeah, the opportunity to. And I think as well, ultimately, in some cases where we look at, there's some, we've seen examples of like Venice and Stonehenge and that where there's just so many tourists.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
literally, they're literally loving it to death. So the ability for some people to experience that without causing damage to the site or whatever, I think is a good idea. Where do you see this going? Like, where do you see things in 10 years, let's say?
VR is going to be consumer mainstream in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know necessarily if that's going to happen. I think that there's still a lot of, limitations with the technology. I think that it's bulky and big, and, the more that I talk to people and the more I'm studying it, and I've started to do focus groups that, talk to people that are given the opportunity to use VR for hours. So, trying to mimic how they might use it in a natural setting at home. They still have some technological glitches. They cause motion sickness and others, which, it is kind of isolating. So there are like some hurdles that I think need to be ironed out in order for it to be something that people use outside of gaming at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think AR is probably much more realistic. It's simple, and Microsoft HoloLens is getting a ton of buzz. It might be that type of avenue that seems to grow faster, but I definitely think that, in the future it's going to grow, but it just might take more time than I think, some of these predictions are claiming.
Right. Okay, interesting stuff. All right, so we're gonna move on a bit. We're gonna start with our quick hits here. And Derek, why don't you take it away?
Earlier this week, or last week, Apple released a 3-minute long commercial, not movie, featuring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, just kicking butt and owning his day, all thanks to Siri. And it's not super serious. It's I thought it was pretty funny though, and worth the 3 minutes. So watch it for the lulls. And if you watch the one from Apple US and Apple Canada, one small difference is that in the American version, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson calls for a lift specifically. Whereas in the Canadian version, there is no lift. So he just asks for Siri to get him a ride. I thought that was kind of interesting. Just a very small tweak to account for a real difference.
Right.
Anyway, Mitel, based in Ottawa, still as far as I know, is purchasing ShoreTel for $430 million US, so that's well over 500 million Canadian. This comes just a little over a year after they announced they were buying Polycom, and so Mitel just seems to figure, well, if we can't make a ton of money on our own products, let's buy everybody else. This will make them the largest unified communications as a service, the second largest unified communications as a service company in the market, and that probably puts them behind Cisco, I would guess, would be number one.
I would think so at this point. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd almost forgotten that they'd bought Polycom, and because Polycom is just almost you go to any big office. If you probably look at some
Or
of your
Oleo's office.
conference room, yep, or you look at your conference rooms at Ryerson, they probably have Polycom gear there for various things. So
Yeah, Polycom or
pretty cool.
Confotel, but yeah, Polycom's huge, and so Mitel bought them a little over a year ago. We actually talked about it on the podcast, and
Yeah, we did.
And now they're buying ShoreTel too, another large VoIP product company.
Yep.
If you really enjoy camping, but you hate camping out on Ontario Parks website trying to find available campsites, good news. There's a new service called CampNab. They launched in British Columbia earlier this year, and now they've hopped onto Ontario. Basically, what they do is you will pay them to watch the website for you. CampNab will scan for a campsite every hour for $10, every 20 minutes for $15, or every 5 minutes for $20. And you can also just do a long-term thing where you have a paid subscription option, costing either $5, $10, or $15 a month for the same service. And basically, once they actually find an available campsite, they let you know, and you can actually go and snag it before somebody else does.
That's awesome. Well,
That's
I know
pretty
some
neat.
people. Yeah, I know some people take their camping, and particularly if they find a really good site they want, they take it very seriously.
Yep.
Right.
Do you camp, Julie?
I do camp. And you know what? I feel like this is something that I'd use because people do tend to book campsites, especially in Ontario, like months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cancel and, you're constantly trying to refresh the site to see if anything's available.
Exactly.
So I feel like that could be something that would work for me.
Yeah, and that's exactly what CampNab automates for you. And then they'll just text you when they find a campsite. They link you directly to the page where you can book it. And hopefully you snag it before somebody else who also paid CampNab.
Yeah, exactly.
Gets it.
What a concept. I love it.
Yeah. So,
all right.
In
big earnings news.
Earnings. Sorry, I skipped over that. No, that's okay. All right, so we're going to go through Facebook, Alphabet, Intel, Samsung, and Nintendo here, hopefully in the next 5 minutes. 3 minutes. Facebook, their revenue was up 45% year over year to, this is all Canadian dollars, $8.01 billion, with profits of $4.85 billion. That's almost 100% profit. They're at 2.01 billion monthly active users now. That's up from 1.94 billion, so an extra 70 million per month. 1.32 billion daily active users, up from 1.28, so that's an extra 5 million. 5 more million people who have nothing to do during the day. Alphabet's revenue was up 21%.
I'm supposed to be the cranky old guy.
Yeah. I use Facebook so little these days. Revenue was up Alphabet revenue was up 21% to $32.4 billion. I'll just take a $1. That's all I need. That's up from 26.78 billion a year ago. That does take into account the EU fine imposed on Google for violating antitrust rules around shopping. The other revenues, which includes things like the Google Pixel, Google Home, the Play Store, G Suite, and Google Compute Cloud, all that other fun stuff, that revenue hit 3.85 billion compared to 2.7 billion a year ago. So that's an extra 1.15 billion. That's all right. Intel, they declared 18.4 billion in revenue. That beat analyst expectations. That's a 9% increase year over year. Good for them. Samsung made 15.7 billion in operating profit. 12 billion in net profit the last quarter. They made all the money. This was mostly thanks to the company's semiconductor division earning 8.97 billion in operating profit last quarter. It's almost 3 billion a month. Nintendo, they have sold 4.7 million units since the Switch's release in March, including 1.97 million Switches last quarter. They also sold almost 1 million Nintendo 3DS units last quarter, plus 5.85 million 3DS games. That all adds up to $1.74 billion in revenue, and they made $236.7 million in profit. That's a 149% increase year over year. If I didn't cover a company you're interested in, they're not worth mentioning.
Okay, that's a lot of the company quarterly earnings news. And now, a lot of people find earnings news rather boring, Derek, but I know there's something far, far more interesting, and that's a word from our sponsor.
Olio Digital Labs is one of Canada's most accomplished small market agencies, delivering web apps and mobile apps to businesses across Canada. In an era of persistent connectivity and pervasive mobile devices, it has become more important than ever before for businesses to be everywhere their employees and customers are. That's why Olio provides its clients with the peace of mind only a highly skilled and experienced team can provide. A team that is big enough to support your needs, but flexible enough to work to your constraints. With a client list spanning from the Middlesex London Health Unit and Ellison Travel and Tours, all the way up to College Pro and the Home Depot, the team at Olio has proven itself to be the planners, designers, and builders of the web and mobile apps used by some of Canada's largest brands. Find out what Olio can do for you by calling 226-785-0420 or visit oliodigital-labs.com to learn more. That's Olio Digital Labs, code that powers every day.
And thanks to Olio Digital Labs for continuing to sponsor the Canadian Tech Podcast.
Awesome. Okay, now we're going to move on to our main stories. Our first one is under the category of technologies we either love or hate. Adobe is apparently finally pulling the plug on Flash. This is, I guess we can say yes. It's an end of an era. They're planning to retire at the end of 2020. This basically was created more than 20 years ago, and it was created by a company called Macromedia.
Sure
and then
was.
Adobe acquired them in 2005. And basically, it was a way to provide a lot of, dynamic content and that into web pages. And things like that years and years ago. I remember a lot of Flash games in browsers and stuff like that. They estimate in 2005 the technology was on more than 98% of personal computers at the time. Now, Flash did start to wane because Apple decided not to support it on the iPhone in 2010 for a lot of valid reasons. There's always been long issues of reliability, security in particular. And now we have newer technologies, of course, like HTML5 are an alternative. So, and I've also seen too, and I think we've reported as well, several web browsers, including Chrome, you have to manually activate it at a page you go to. Right. Derek, what do you think about this? Do you think this is finally it's time?
Wah, wah. Yes, it's absolutely time. It's done. Flash. Stick a fork in Flash. I stuck a fork in Flash a few years ago. The only reason I kind of still need it right now is because as a cord cutter, it's not easy to get. Actually, even it doesn't matter if I'm a cord cutter or not. It's not easy to watch a lot of international sports. Yes. And so I end up on far less reputable sites. Watching it there, and the easiest, best delivery mechanism for those sites still is Flash. But I mean, that really just proves the point. Is that's really the only places that that Flash is still being used. YouTube officially killed off Flash last year. They switched to their HTML5 player as the default back in 2016. A lot of old sites like homestarrunner.com and that sort of thing, they're not nearly as popular as they were. Like that was really the heyday of Flash back in 2001 when I started college to 2005. And a little bit later, but probably up until 2009 when things really started to turn. You had Apple, saying Flash sucks, we're not supporting it. Performance on mobile devices, even though it was officially supported on Android, was still terrible, and Adobe could not make it work. And and they've had the writing on the wall for a while themselves. All of their content creation tools have defaulted to not Flash for a little while now, and they've been adding those tools, adding other technologies to those creation tools for a while now. So they knew this is just, here's our flag in the ground. This is when it's done. We're going to stop supporting it except for probably security issues after 2020. And so now everybody can put together an actual plan to just kill it off, which is good. It provides certainty. So.
Yeah, and I think all these older sites, like everything else, they're gonna have to start with a migration plan,
or just kill it off.
Or just kill it off. Exactly. Julie, any comments about Flash?
No.
It's fine.
It's outdated.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, exactly. I tried to run it on my Moto X, I think, or maybe my Galaxy Note 2 before that. It was just terrible. Yeah, I gave up. Exactly. I was like, forget it. And even Adobe Air.
It's just like every time I open a new browser, a new Chrome browser, I need to update, install a new, re-download it. So it's. Yeah.
It's time. Okay.
That's my contribution.
There we go. That's awesome.
And a valid contribution it is.
Okay. Next up, Google. They're deciding they already have, actually, not in case of has, they've dropped instant search. Instant search is the thing where you start typing in Google search bar and it'll start making guesses of what you're trying to search on. So they basically launched that in 2010. It was called Google Instant, actually. And I found it really, really good. Now, the thing is, though, the landscape's changed. Apparently 50% of all Google searches are now being done on mobile devices. And I guess, that's a little bit different. They're not getting quite the same performance. So they want to change it. So, and there's the company saying we want to focus on ways to make search even faster and more fluid on all devices. I have to admit, I'm gonna miss it on my Mac and my PC when I'm typing stuff in, because sometimes you're typing something, and it's all of a sudden pops up. So I just hit the right arrow key and boom, away I go. Julie, what do you think about instant search, and are you going to miss it?
I feel like I'll miss it. Like, I don't know. I feel like I also have a terrible memory. So I go to search something so frequently, and then I forget what I'm searching. And then oftentimes it's in the suggestions. Right, so now I'm going to be lost without this. I don't know what I'm going to be searching ever.
There you go. Well, you're not supposed to be forgetting things until you're much, much older. So
yeah, you're too young to be forgetting things. Start taking some multivitamins, work out.
There you go. There
you go. Some more omega-3s. That'll do you good.
That'll help. That'll help the memory. Derek, what do you think?
Well, I have mixed feelings. I'm gonna miss the ability once. So this is not happening in Chrome yet. Like I'm running Chrome version 59. Which apparently is not the latest, just to Julie's point there, because I just went to About Google Chrome, and sure enough, I have an update now that just downloaded and is ready to apply, but I'll do that later. And so I'll miss the ability to start writing really stupid things to see what the auto suggestions are.
I know, that's always so much fun.
Like, where's the best place? And then the first one that came up was to live in Canada. And I'm like, well, that's boring, but you know what I mean. I think I have, insert funny thing here. Let's see. I think I have, there we go. ADHD, cancer, a UTI, BPD. What's BPD? That's new. What's BPD? Now I got to know.
Oh, boy.
This is about borderline personality disorder. Of course. Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty sure I do too. That's okay. Right. Or a heart attack. I think I have a pet named Steve. Who wrote that? I want to know. And now I'm not going to be able to find out what stupid things people are writing.
You're going down a rabbit hole, buddy.
I know. I'm backing out. So that I'll miss that, because that's kind of fun. And actually, even for technical stuff, when I do know what I want to write, I'll end up seeing suggestions for the way other people have written it. I'm like, oh, that's a better description. So I will definitely miss that. On the other hand, from a technical perspective, and the amount of tiny little bits of traffic that a billion people a day doing that, and just the extra communication required on Google's end and bandwidth to support that, I totally get it.
Right.
That sucks for them. This AJAX, which is asynchronous JavaScript and XML, that technology, which is almost certainly used here to support that, it's a lot of bandwidth when you have a billion people or 2 billion people, using your service every day to find things. So if that were the only reason, I would understand. I'm sure they have other reasons as well, but yeah, from a tech perspective, I totally get it. From an emotional, I use this perspective, it kind of sucks, and I will absolutely miss it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, our next story. Derek, we're just going to turn this one over to you because both Julie and I admitted before we went on the air, we had never heard of this before. So
yeah,
we're just going to sit back, eat our popcorn, and let you explain this.
I highly recommend Boom Chicka Pop. They have some really good flavors. So the CRTC has put a call out for comments on the reconsideration of a decision made earlier this year that has the potential to effectively mandate Wi-Fi first mobile virtual network operators. Sorry, Mobile Syrup, you put it really well, so I just read it right from your article. They're accepting comments until September 8th. I'm absolutely going to put some comments in. They're inviting interested parties to weigh in on what constitutes a, quote, home network for the purpose of this decision, and therefore whether Wi-Fi could be included in the definition of a home network. Duh. But anyway, if they do decide to include Wi-Fi in the definition of a home network, that runs counter to the policy that promotes investment in facilities, and that could result in the opening of an entirely new Wi-Fi first mobile virtual network operator, also known as MVNO, market in Canada. So we talked about Sugar Mobile multiple times on the show. This is a result of that whole debacle. Back in March, the CRTC decided in favor of Rogers that Sugar Mobile and its parent company, Ice Wireless, were abusing their roaming agreement with Rogers. Rogers benefited from people going up north. Ice Wireless actually has a decent network in the north of the wall. And the wall being the 60th parallel, and therefore, if people from Nunavut, effectively, or Northwest Territories, the Yukon, if they came south, they would end up on Rogers' network. Great, everybody wins. But Ice Wireless took a little step further and said, well, we could set up this other division called Sugar Mobile. The whole idea being we have proprietary software on an Android device that would force you to use Wi-Fi if you had it available. So if you're at home, you're at a cafe, you're at work, you're walking around downtown wherever where there's an open Wi-Fi, like a municipal Wi-Fi network like there is in London, Toronto, Stratford, Lord knows how many other places, you would use the Wi-Fi. Great. So you're using somebody else's internet connection or your own. If you weren't at home or weren't connecting to a Wi-Fi network you had ability to connect to, you would have a tiny little bit of data and a little bit of airtime that you paid a paltry amount of money for. Sugar Mobile was starting at I think it was $15 or $20 a month for like 100 megabytes of data and I don't know 100 minutes, something like that. I don't even think I can check anymore because they had to shut everything down. That was really cool. I was actually really interested in that. I actually got a SIM card from them as part of, that stupid site that was like ranking people on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as like an influencer.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
I probably still have the account, but I'm not an influencer apparently, so whatever. But I got a SIM. I didn't end up using it. But I was really interested in this because most of the time I can be within Wi-Fi range somewhere, either at home or at work. And this could be huge. There are companies like Text Now, which is based out of Waterloo, that do this in the U.S. A bunch of companies do this in the U.S. But because apparently your home network is not, your Wi-Fi at home is not considered part of your home network, that kind of throws our ability to do this in Canada completely out the window. So I think Jean-Pierre Blais is still the CRTC commissioner for a little bit longer, or the head of the CRTC for a little bit longer. And if so, then obviously we could get potentially this reversed, but they're not expected to have a ruling on this until March 2030. Well, no later than March 31st, 2018, next year. Potentially sooner, obviously, especially if the comments are overwhelmingly in favor. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's what it would do. It would bring back Sugar Mobile's ability or Ice Wireless's ability to do a Sugar Mobile and sell you Wi-Fi first connectivity. You're at home, you're at work, great. And if you need a little bit of data or airtime on the go, they would piggyback off of somebody else's network that they're paying for, right?
Right.
Like they're going to get money out of it. Whether it's Bell or Rogers or TELUS or potentially Freedom, that would really be a really crappy backup network. But there's just not a lot of coverage, right? So,
no, there isn't.
Or in Quebec, Videotron or SaskTel, whatever. Yeah. Okay. So that I think that does the issue justice. Obviously, I'm in favor. I think this would be huge. There are a lot of people who would benefit from an extremely low-cost way to connect on the run when they don't need a ton of connectivity, because like you go to Rogers or Bell, like the starting cost is like $40 or $50 a month, even if you bring your own thing, your own device. Right. So, Julie, like now that you know a little bit more about how this would work, what do you think?
I mean, I'm definitely in support. Is that something that you had mentioned that's something you can go comment? People can actually make an impact in the interim while they're sort of making these decisions to go and comment and try and...
Yeah, you can. So there's a link on this mobile. So we'll put it right in the show notes, but there is a link here to the CRTC website. They give you a very, it's a pretty short backgrounder. That's actually pretty good length. And then specifically what they want people to comment on. What other forms of connectivity could technically constitute a home network? Should other forms of connectivity, such as Wi-Fi, be included in the definition of a home network? If so, which ones should be included? And 8 other questions. They've got question 1 to 8, and then question 7 has like 5 subsections, or five potential definitions that could be adopted. So, some conditions on the expanded definition of a home network. So they do want to hear on specific things, and then they've got a link there to their for you to submit an intervention, which is basically a comment. Right. It doesn't mean you have to go and hold somebody down and tell them to stop doing something. Not that type of intervention. Rogers is thankfully not hoarding lots of tchotchkes and trinkets in their office.
Oh, that's good.
So it's all here. If you want to comment, here's your backgrounder. Here's your call for comments, specifically what they want to know or hear from people, and you can spend an afternoon and have at it, or a morning.
Alrighty,
Stuart. What about you?
From basically the way you're deciding, I'm all for more access for all income levels and abilities, and things like that is something that we should always be going with. So no, I think it's a very, very good idea.
Good stuff.
Okay. We've been covering this next story. Recently, the the Canadian Supreme Court ruled against Google involving an issue from BC, and they basically, where Google was trying to not to avoid an order to remove global search results for websites accused of selling stolen technologies from a BC company. A lot of us refer to the move as the first global de-indexing order, and obviously there's concerns about the broader implications. So this has gone to the Canadian Supreme Court, but now Google's taking it to the U.S., specifically the U.S. District Court for Northern California. Now, normally this wouldn't happen because it's gone through the Canadian Supreme Court, but Google's hoping it can find a loophole within the U.S. First Amendment. They're arguing that the global removal of these search results violates American law, and therefore Google should not be forced to comply with the Canadian ruling. Derek, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Okay, so last time we talked about it, I came down on, I feel very comme ci comme ça about this. Like, I get it. I get where EcuStech is coming from, where they don't want this company who stole their tech to be making any money, even though they fled the country. I get it. If I had proprietary intellectual property, I would totally be on side with that, right? On the other hand, Google just provides access to what's out there. That's the whole idea. So for the Supreme Court to be like, no, man, you got to take this out of your search results. I don't know. And I mean, Google's going to do what they're going to do, right? They have to protect themselves and their whole business model. I get it. I don't blame them for doing this at all. They obviously feel like they might get somewhere, so they're going to blow another couple $1,000,000 on lawyers. And, actually, these people probably already all work in-house anyway. So they're going to put them to work on the same issue again from a different angle. And, I mean, we'll see. I don't particularly care at this point what happens, but mostly because I'm able to have some cognitive dissonance here and get where both entities are coming from. Or all three, the Supreme Court, EcuStech, and Google.
Yeah.
How long has this been going on for?
Oh, this has been going on for at least 2 years. It went up. Yeah. It was out in BC. So it's been going on for a couple of years. But yeah, it's, the implications are that if, how is this, we've seen this before where Google's agreed in certain countries to censor.
France.
Basically, that's what I call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a whole dangerous thing. It's like, for example, I'm vice chair of the local library board here. And as libraries, we try and keep neutral when possible. Our role is to provide information. And yeah, this kind of worries me from that side, but I can also see, as you say, what the companies are worried about. Julie, as someone in an age group who's basically grown up with, if you wanted information, if you wanted an album or whatever, you were able to usually just Google it. Right. You never had to do the old school stuff like Derek had to and I did. What do you think about this? And I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the whole backstory.
Right.
I think I have an appropriate analogy. You work at HTM Research. Another research company, brand spanking new, steals all your research, relabels it, and starts selling it online. They make money at it. HTM Research goes after them, proves they stole it, and relabeled it, and profited from those actions. And then you took this fight. You for whatever reason you had to take this fight, or you asked Google to de-index that other research company, and get them off the search engine. Google said no. You went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said yes. And not only do you have to do it from Canada, you have to do it worldwide.
I mean, I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I don't know if I have any direct, comments, but
I think it's going to be a challenging one, yeah, because and as I said before, I can definitely see both sides of this.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to, how each country is going to do it. It is funny, though, because Google's already, in certain countries and certain locations, they already obey local law in terms of search, things like in France and China and that. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. Okay, moving on. Down here in London, Ontario, where we're 2 hours by road and 2.5 if you can find a train. We're really excited, because they're talking about high-speed rail and stuff like that. But there's also another group, Transpod. They're a Toronto startup. They want to build a Hyperloop system, shades of Elon Musk and all that. They've released a initial order of magnitude analysis. So this is basically a report of building an ultra-high-speed line in southwestern Ontario between Toronto and Windsor, with multiple stops in between. They're saying their system will cost half the projected cost of high-speed rail using the same route, and this is going to be four times the speed. I looked at the report. They're making a lot of assumptions. I'm not an engineer. I didn't even play one on TV. But if they could pull this off, and even if it was a little bit more, because I've yet to see a construction project of this magnitude that comes in on budget, and they're only allowing, I believe I saw the numbers like 2% per year for additional unexpected issues. I kind of think the idea is kind of neat. London to Toronto, Derek, in 30 minutes.
I'm all for this. This is totally fine. If I have to read the study, I haven't read it in full, but if this is true, even if it was 25% less or cost 10% less, but delivered a lot more value, that's fine. At this point, I don't care if it costs the same as HSR, because they make some really good points about China, Japan, South Korea. They're done high-speed rail. They're moving on to maglev. They're moving on to extremely high-speed rail, like way beyond what we're potentially looking to build in southwestern Ontario. So I totally get where they're coming from there. And what I think, though, is that the environmental assessment will not. It should not preclude looking at Hyperloop as a potential technology. Knowing what I know about the way the environmental assessment that's about to finish up for Glendon Drive across Middlesex County here, pretty much anything they hear or anything people bring to the people doing the EA has to be taken into account and has to be looked at. So if what I hope Transpod is doing now, instead of just talking about this in the press, is actually taking this to the government and saying, hey guys, look at this cost-benefit analysis type thing we just did, or initial order of magnitude analysis we just did. You should really include it in the EA, and legally they have to. The reason I'm not talking to some residents over on Old River Road right now about potential solutions to some traffic stuff is because anything I say right now will have to be included in the EA, and I don't want it to be. We've got some other short-term ideas we want to implement instead, so we're waiting. So in the meantime, this is exactly what the EA is for, is to look at high-speed rail and other technologies, should look at other technologies to figure out what's feasible, what's doable. And I don't think it's going to look at cost. It's really going to look at potential solutions, present a preferred solution, and then municipally, we have like 10 years to implement the recommendations that come out of an EA. I don't know if it's the same 10-year time frame for the province. It probably is, or maybe even longer. Regardless, great. So, if I can get to Toronto at an average speed of 700 kilometers an hour, I will do that.
Yeah, Julie, your thoughts?
I mean, it sounds really cool. There's probably, like you said, or like you alluded to, some hurdles and things. I mean, I don't know about safety and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, I think I read somewhere that this is the first proposal, right? This is the first kind of like route that they're proposing. But I saw another one where they had mentioned, getting to Montreal in 45 minutes. And it's just like, that seems incredible to me. Like, imagine the efficiency. It just seems. It's
like halfway to teleportation.
It is.
I mean, it's kind of scary, but it's also, it's like the Jetsons. Like, I just am picturing like a tube. I know that it's like kind of look like a tube. And imagine if you came out the other side and like your hair and makeup were done. I don't know. Like that's what I'm imagining.
That would be pretty amazing. I don't need the makeup, but if somebody could shave me while I was in the tube, shave my head, shave my face, I'd pay an extra.
Well,
I'd pay extra for that.
And those of us that are follically challenged up there, if we could get some back.
That'd be a really quick hair replacement surgery. I don't think you'd want it that quick. 45 minutes from Toronto to Montreal to shave my head, that's enough. That's enough time for me to do it manually. So if a robot could do it in that time frame, I'm good with that.
And then you get out of the tube, you go down, you get some bagels for breakfast, and then you come back and you're back in time for the Jays game at lunchtime.
You know what you could even do is, again, this is me specifically. 45 minutes is enough to get in the tube, have the robots shave my face and my head, and even like get dressed in a suit.
Oh, wow.
So right? So I could literally come out the other side like George Jetson, dressed, refreshed, ready to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Vacuum tube me, Scotty.
I think we found our episode title.
Yep.
Just saying. Okay, our very final story. Switch. This is Nintendo gaming stuff. I guess their their home console hybrid. They've sold 4.7 million units since its release in March. This is part of the earnings report. Derek, I know you're a Nintendo fanboy, so I'm going to let you roll with this one.
Yeah, so I already gave you the highlights earlier. More specifically, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is a re-release of Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U, but with some new features. They already sold 3.54 million units of that game since its release in April. That's impressive. ARMS, brand new game, brand new IP from Nintendo. They sold 1.18 million units in 2 weeks. On the first 2 weeks on the store shelves. Legend of Zelda continues to sell really strongly, 3.92 million units overall, 1.16 last quarter. So that means that roughly 83% of Switch owners own a copy of Breath of the Wild. It was the launch title, but regardless, that's still really high penetration. Yeah. And of course, they've got new games. Splatoon 2 just dropped. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle is coming. That's a real-time strategy game, so that's pretty interesting. Super Mario Odyssey continues to look phenomenal. I can't wait to get my hands on that. That's going to drop, I think, before Christmas. So and more importantly, Nintendo's on pace to sell 10 million Switch units in the first year, which was exactly what they aimed for. Right. So, man, it's kind of like they've really done this Microsoft type thing with Windows, where Windows is great and then it sucks, and then it's great and then it sucks. Right. N64, GameCube, Wii U, Switch, great, sucks, great, sucks, great. If they could cut out the sucks part, Nintendo would be in great shape. Right. Same with Microsoft. If just keep going with Windows 10 the way it is, don't mess it up. Don't worry about Windows 11. Just keep adding creators updates and all these cool new features. No more dramatic changes. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So Julie,
they're firing on all cylinders. So
yeah, they are. So Julie, are you a gamer?
Yeah.
Well, kind of.
It's okay. You're among friends here. You can admit it.
Like Pac-Man.
Oh, wow.
Nothing wrong with Pac-Man.
I have new respect for you there. Okay.
Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man?
All of the cool new games.
Okay.
I like the old school ones, like the Mario Kart and the Pac-Man and the Pong.
Okay. Right. Okay. Mario Kart's pretty old. That's over 20 years old now. The original. Okay. Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man?
Oh, Pac-Man for sure. The original.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Ms. Pac-Man came along and apparently was much more difficult. It copied. It wasn't the original. Well, no, but the big difference, if I recall correctly, the big difference between Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man is that Pac-Man's ghost patterns were highly predictable. They weren't randomized. So you could actually memorize them and then destroy the game. Ms. Pac-Man introduced randomization to the ghost patterns. So they didn't have a pattern then. So the ghosts actually went in random directions, so it was much more difficult.
Well, how else do you think we could play an hour on one quarter? I'm just saying,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your arcade life and cause you to spend $1 instead of a quarter.
Terrible, man. Terrible.
I know, I am. I'm always looking out for the big guy.
I know, but you know what's funny, as you were saying there, Julie, you like some of the old stuff, and that certainly is why I think some of the various companies are coming out with these retro consoles. We actually talked about last week. Atari is coming out with a retro console again, like the old 2600.
Yeah,
and there was some cool stuff on there. So
and current content too.
People love that.
Yep. I think sometimes the old classics are still good.
For sure.
Exactly. Okay. We are now going to take one more little break with a brief word about our good friends at CodeShip.
CodeShip is a SaaS-delivered continuous integration and delivery solution that lets you ship your apps with confidence. You can choose between CodeShip Basic or CodeShip Pro. Basic is a simple testing and deployment service with pre-installed CI dependencies that works right out of the box, and it makes the average setup time less than 3 minutes. Or give CodeShip Pro a try. CodeShip Pro is a fully customizable continuous integration and delivery service with native Docker support, and it is a lot easier to use than Jenkins. It makes it easy to test and deploy your microservices. You can push to any registry, and it's also perfect if you want to deploy with Kubernetes. It comes with a convenient local command line tool that allows you to run your builds locally. It helps encrypt your environment variables and guarantees 100% parity between your development and production environments. Both Basic and Pro come with a free plan that grants 100 builds per month, unlimited projects, and unlimited users. And of course, open source projects are incredible and awesome and extremely important, and therefore they are always free on CodeShip. So visit codeship.com today or check out codeship.com/features to find out which CodeShip product is the best fit for you, but no, they will not ship your pants.
Okay. Did you come up with that?
Yeah. Thanks, Kmart.
Okay. All right. We'll see what our good friends at CodeShip think of that.
They'll ship your code, but they won't ship your pants.
I like it. All right. We'd like to thank CodeShip for their ongoing support, hopefully continuing.
Hey, they prepaid, so I'm good. No refunds.
There we go. No, they're actually a good bunch there.
No, they're great.
They'll actually appreciate that.
Sure
you may have to make sure that they pay you something if they start using that as a slogan.
I will. Kelly,
Excellent.
I'm coming for you. Don't steal that from me.
Okay, now we're finishing up here. We're going to turn on to stuff we like. I've been playing a little bit more with some YouTube recording, and also one of the groups I'm involved in wanted some help in some videos and for their activities and stuff like that. So we actually got them this older camcorder, but it's good and simple. It's the Canon RF70. Good little camcorder. For someone like myself, I'm mostly an audio guy, but I've been starting to play with video. This is quite a nice little powerful unit. 16 gig internal flash drive. You can put a memory card on, zoom.
Nice.
It works really, really well. I can't really, say a ton of stuff, but it's like a 3 megapixel sensor, huge zoom. You can record up to six hours of video to its internal drive. You can then plug it directly into your PC or Mac. There's actually a Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi for sharing and transferring, and you can actually remotely zoom and turn off and on the camcorder from a smartphone app. So
that's neat.
Yeah, so
like a little remote without needing a separate piece of hardware.
Yep, and it'll actually show you. It creates its own little Wi-Fi network, and you connect your smartphone.
I think we're all clicking on it now. I saw Julie's cursor go there, and then I went there, and I'm like, this sounds really neat. I want one.
Yeah, it's neat. You basically connect to its little Wi-Fi network, and then on your smartphone, you'll see what it sees, and you can stop and start and zoom in and out.
Now tell me, how much are you willing to pay for such an amazing product, Stuart?
Well, you know what? One of our colleagues picked this up for a real deal. It's an older product, but if I recall, he got it for less than $300. You know, it was on sale.
Photo Video has it for $285 US in stock.
Yeah, it's a slightly older one, but you know, it works for what people are want to use it for. You know, it's really, really quite good. I've been very impressed with it. We actually use it. We actually bought an external Rode mic for it, and it works great. So we do. So the group I'm with, we build plastic model kits, stuff like that. So sometimes people are doing demonstrations, painting demonstrations. So we'll just put this on a tripod, point it at whatever's being worked at.
Oh yeah. IPMS.
And then the person's talking away, and you know, we throw it to a projector, or we actually save it to throw on the YouTube channel later.
Julie, if you want one, I found it for $380 at Amazon. I can send you the link.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's my stuff we like this week. Derek, what have you got?
I have a book I've mentioned to you off the air called The Referral Engine. It's all about how to create a culture of referral at your business. So from the onboarding process, for the way you treat your clients and the way you talk to your clients and treat them post-sale, all throughout creating a culture that makes them want to talk about you and refer business to you. So it's really, ultimately it's really about treating your customers really well, and therefore making them feel like they should refer your business to others. But of course, making sure you ask for the referral, right? Because if you don't ask, most people will never refer you to anybody. Just like there are always going to be more negative reviews on a product that does, a million things really, really well, but then there's one thing that a vocal minority really doesn't like about it. They will get pooped on all over just because of that one little thing. Because you feel better, I guess, complaining about something than you do talking it up. So it's proving to be fantastic so far. I don't read a ton of business books because some of them are incredibly dry. But the author, whose name escapes me, John Jantsch. Jantsch? Yeah, John Jantsch. Yep. Great author. Almost as funny as Scott Stratton, who's Canadian. Yes. And so it makes the book really readable and highly digestible. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm going to be applying it to both Olio and Cleverhost. And so, yeah, it's really good so far.
All right. Perfect. Okay, Julie, I see you actually have two here, which is perfectly fine because I was looking at right, they're awesome, both of them. So go ahead with your first one.
Sure. So one of my favorite things is this new, it's a relatively new app. I think they launched in springtime of this year, and it's called Relive. For anybody who's like an adrenaline junkie who loves to go on runs, hikes, motorcycle rides, whatever it is that you like to do, Relive is like this really cool way, and especially with with my generation, who is obsessed with sharing and tracking everything that we do. Relive actually can kind of track what your activity is. So if you're going for a 10K run throughout Toronto, it will actually, after your run, you have to have the app on and active, but after your run, it will create a 3D movie of what you've just done. And it sounds super, it's totally just self-indulgent, but it's fun because, for me, I don't like to run unless people know that I'm running. So it's perfect because I can upload my run right after, and I can share it as like a form of a fun movie. It shows your elevation. It shows where you've gone. You can attach photos, and, the 3 friends that I have that like things on Facebook always like it. So it's definitely worth it.
I just love the line of, I don't feel like running unless people know I'm running.
Well, yeah, that's like the whole point.
I definitely felt that way for a little bit about 3 or 4 years ago. Like, God damn it, if I'm going to go run, I'm going to announce to the world that I'm going running.
That's the culture. It totally is that way.
But
for any outdoor adventure, it's a great app. It's fun.
I'm no longer that way, but I definitely, I know that feeling. I was like that for a little while. So this looks interesting.
And myself, I haven't been that way to want to go for a run in years. So this is why I actually like the second one you have, because this I could use. This is cool.
Right. Okay. So the second one I've actually heard of. I haven't actually had the opportunity to use it yet, but people have been talking about it just within the AR space, because I'm a huge AR nerd. Right. But I also really enjoy simplified applications of this technology. And I feel like AR Measure is going to be one of those things that will actually change my life, because it's the simplest thing. From what I understand, it's literally a ruler, and you can use it, and obviously augmented reality, superimposes layers, on top of the real world. So, or virtual layers on top of the real world. So you can use this virtual ruler to for instance, me, I just repainted my, a couple of accent walls in my living room, and I'm now looking for a piece of artwork, and I can just hold up this application and it will tell me, what the size is that I'm looking for. And I can then go to the store and figure out what the exact measurements are of it. But I mean, it seems so simple, but it also seems really practical and useful. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, I can definitely see some uses when I'm doing stuff around the house, etc. Pretty
about how I was going to use it at the bar when trying to pick up men. I was going to hold this ruler. It's dirty, but
I was going to say, I think I know where you're going with this. I don't appreciate it personally.
There's just a ton of real life applications.
Yes. Well, if you max out the ruler on my iPhone, we can talk.
We can talk.
Right.
Exactly. Oh dear.
That's okay. We've all objectified the other gender in our lives, so I can't blame you for doing it. It's fine.
Nope, that's all right. Okay, what are we up to lately? I'm still looking for the next full-time gig. I'm starting to work on some e-guides again. I'm launching my S-Claire consulting space again, doing backup and disaster recovery consulting. And I got a busy first half of the week ahead with some library board stuff and a few other appointments. So that's what's happening with me, Mr. Silva.
Okay, prep yourself. So I'm always okay. Soccer ends in 2 weeks, so I will stop talking about that soon. Like my oldest son's soccer season, so I will no longer be coaching soccer in like. And
how are the
2
kids
weeks.
doing?
They're okay.
They're doing okay.
They've all improved throughout the season, which is great.
You're saying it's been a slow improvement.
But we're competing way more often than we were at the beginning of the season. Like last week's game, the first half was not great. A lot of little mistakes that turn into goals for the other team. The second half was amazing. We scored. The other team scored only one goal in the second half, so the second half was a huge improvement. And then last practice was actually really, really nice. Only 5 kids showed up, but they all listened, they all paid attention, they all did the exercises with a lot of enthusiasm, which I was trying to inject with a nice big smile on my face, nice, happy voice, and just keep things light. Well, yeah, when you've done 6 weeks or 7 weeks of kids not listening, it's hard to go the next Thursday and be like, here we go again. But no, it was a really good practice. So, and good. I put my happy face on, I put my big boy pants on, and it all paid off.
Attaboy.
I got to see my oldest also play hockey this morning because he's been playing in a summer hockey league. So that was fun. Still enjoying the pool. We were in there like every other day. Cleverhost related, I installed HTTP2 across all the Cleverhost servers last night. I was testing things vigorously just to make sure I didn't mess anything up. It was easy to revert if I had to, but things look good. The benefit here is that we're bumping up from HTTP 1.1, which has been the standard forever. Right. HTTP 2 only delivers benefits on secure connections, though. So if you happen to be a Cleverhost customer and you have not enabled like the automatic redirect to the secure version of your website, now would be the time. Because your website will actually be a little bit faster and lower payloads, and so that's faster. So which is nice, and then it's secure by default as opposed to showing up in every browser now, not secure in the browser in the address bar. So that was huge. That's new. It's HTTP2 just got released to cPanel production branch like very recently. And so I was like, well, now is a good time to test it out. So I did, and it worked, and I did on another server, and it worked, and I did on the last server, and everything's looking great. I did some freelance work last night as well, about an hour and a half for a private school out in, I don't know, Brampton, Burlington way over there. And I have a council meeting this Wednesday, and I have a little announcement about the podcast. Jameson and I will be heading up to we were invited, and we've been able to conclude negotiations, I guess, that we're going to go to the incredible Fireside Conference early September, the 8th to the 10th. It is a all-inclusive, immersive, off-the-grid and off-the-record cottage weekend where we will meet amazing business, startup, investor, and media type people. They have a podcast pavilion, which is why we were invited to come to the conference, record an episode of the podcast with some of these VC, investor, business, startup, media people, and we are really excited. If you go to firesideconf.com, you can see the 2016 scrapbook, so I guess it's not entirely off the record. And there's a guide to Fireside as well, kind of like guide to Burning Man. And and we're going to be there with some other cool podcast folks. Here we go. So people, I guess, speaking this year are the founder of Move the Dial, the founder and host of Mixergy, a VP of the 88 Agency, co-founder and CEO of Tokyo Smoke. Who else? Georgia Dow from iMore. That'll be fun. Some really, really cool speakers. So yeah, those are the speakers. And Jameson and I are going to go. You said you don't like camping, so you're out.
Well, and I've also got. I'm not sure where I'm going to going to be at that point.
True.
So and I think I think Jameson, who's our other co-host, I think it's going to be a good networking opportunity for him as well. Yeah. I also see a few familiar faces there, people I've worked with in the past. So I think it's going to be an awesome conference, and I'll hold the fort down here.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you want to go, they are accepting the third round of applications right now. So you can request an invite, and if they accept you, then you'll be able to pay the slightly hefty fee to go. But it is all-inclusive. It seems like it's going to be a lot of fun, so we're really looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Awesome. Yeah, okay. Last but not least, Julie, what are you working on lately?
Well, right now I'm conducting a study within the Hospitality Tourism Institute. It's actually all about trying to uncover, what are people going to, or how are people going to utilize virtual reality technology in a more natural setting. So, a lot of the studies that have taken place so far have been, just focused on assessing somebody's interest in a specific video. This type of study is very exploratory, and it's just hoping to try to understand, should this technology become consumer mainstream in the next 5 years as predicted? How are people going to use it within their homes? So that's cool. What we're doing right now. We're finding some interesting stuff, so I'm excited to hopefully start analyzing all the data soon and have some interesting insights come from that.
Cool. Well, you're definitely going to have to let us know once something's released there. Okay, we are now done. So, Julie, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. You're welcome back any time. I know I've learned a couple. Yeah, I've learned a couple of new things myself. It was really good having you on the podcast.
Oh, it's such a great experience. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Okay, so don't forget to review us on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher. Player FM, wherever else you get your podcasts. Retweet us when we talk about new episodes. We also have a page on Facebook. Follow and like it there, or even go old school and tell a friend. Sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah,
you can also
absolutely.
you can also send us an email to contact@canadiantechpodcast.ca, and you know what? That's just what Julie did. To let us know what you think. Yeah, I know. If you have some ideas, we're always looking for new ideas, and it's great. So, Derek, do you have any last parting words?
My name is Inigo Montoya. No, I don't. I'm just joking.
Okay. So for episode 126 for July the 30th, 2017, my name is Stuart Clark.
My name is still Derek Silva.
And I'm Julie Giberson.
Thank you, and be well.